Good evening, good morning, and good night. Welcome to Inappropriate Radio. It's your host, Tashana, the hostess with the mostest. Let's get into this. Excuse my voice. This weather is bipolar, and I was dressed like a little hoochie mama, so I am paying for it. And my stomach and my back and my chest all out. Alright. So we are gonna be going over our list. We had the discussion of writing a list, right, of the things that we fear most. And the creator wanted to go over it. And we wanted to pair this with a series of questions. So no periodic table, okay? I won't read off everything on my list, but surprisingly, it's not a long list. And I sat with this for an entire day before I wrote it. I thought about it. And I had given it some thought for at least a day before I commit to start writing everything down. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just making stuff up. I wanted these to actually be things that I am fearful of, right? I didn't want to make things up based off of my emotions. And when I say that, because I had already stated this before, right? That when you do a task or an exercise like this, you want to be able to not only be realistic, you don't want to overanalyze it, because this is where your emotions start to come in. And they get intertwined with what you're fearful of. So the things that you're afraid of and the things that make you feel a way can be confused with one another, okay? We don't want that. Because that doesn't highlight the things, right, that we need to kind of focus on to start building us up. Because your fear, right, it are areas where you lack belief in God, where you lack understanding of a particular thing. And it doesn't have to be, some big thing. It could be something that other people may consider small, but your experience is highlighting and putting like a magnifying glass, if you will, on this fear. So mine is typical black people stuff, right? Learning to swim. Failure. I definitely have a fear of failure. I have a fear of picking the wrong life mates, the wrong life, and the wrong journey mates. God taking away my blessings, whether it be spiritual or monetary blessings. And losing my faith in God. I have something else that I'm not going to say just because I don't feel like I need to. I feel like that's something that is really going to put me in a vulnerable space that I don't want to share with the collective. So I'll keep that part to myself, okay? Now, if you get stuck, don't force this list, okay? Your fears are intertwined with your emotions. We said that earlier. So don't get too hooked up on how things make you feel. Just really think about the things that you are afraid of and just try to get a hold of that alone, okay? Now, these are some of the questions, okay? Are all of these fears within your scope to change? Right? Or what can you change? What can't you change about this fear? Can you change it? Is it something that can be stopped? is the root even a realistic thing? Like, is whatever this fear based on, is it a real thing or is it like a figment, right? Question 2. How long have you had this or these fears? Okay? How long have you been living with this? Is this something like we discussed, I believe yesterday? Yeah. Can you date this back to a period of your life? Is this something that you've always remember having a fear of? Because that matters, okay? This is how you start to heal. This is where you can pinpoint the beginning of your trauma, okay? Question 3. What caused or causes this fear? Again, what is the root or the foundation or the basis of this fear? Did a traumatic situation happen? Did something small happen that you never addressed and it just turned to a really big fear? So I'll give you an example, and we talked about this before. I'm in Jersey. We used to have these parades, these like stepping and cheering teams, and my grandmother had put us in one. We ended up winning the state championship. So one of our gifts was a paid trip to Louisiana. The irony of me almost drowning in Louisiana gets me every single time, I swear. But I was about, I want to say, in between the ages of 6 and 8. We had been at this hotel, this retreat, whatever, and we were all in the pool. No one was paying me any mind except for one person. Maybe they were shit. Maybe they wanted me to die in that water. Like, now that I think about it, I don't know, it's crazy. But I had tiptoed my way over to the 8-foot side, and there you have it. Almost died that quick. This girl, I'm not going to say her name, but I am friends with her on social media. And I remember that's a traumatic situation because I almost died. I was really young. And to this day, no one really can say that they remember this except for the person that saved me. Like, I'm not even sure for real if they even actually remember, like, really, like, this happening. I don't know. I just know I almost died. And because of that, I've always had this instinctual fear of swimming. Even going in the water, like, I can go under the water, put my face under the water, whether it's a pool, the ocean, whatever. But the act of actually moving my body to move throughout the water, I associate that with almost drowning, which is weird because I am courageous enough to stick my entire body along with my head underneath the water. But for some reason, the wherewithal to actually swim is a fear. It's catastrophic. I'm just using that as an example because sometimes people look at trauma from different perspectives. So if your life has been altered in any way, threatened, that is trauma-based. These are deeper rooted fears, okay, which have a little more plausible reason for its existence, okay? How can you fix it or heal it? Okay? What can you do to begin embarking on the healing journey? How do you even address this, right? You recognize that it's there. That's the first step, okay? You realize that it exists, okay? That is step number 1. And then you say, what is it with me or about me that I have to be afraid of this thing. Like, is this a common fear? And that's another thing. A collective fear is trauma-based, but it's also a fear that is keeping a particular group stuck. And I think water is a great example. Obviously, we have tons of different things that a lot of people are afraid of because of the historical component. And this doesn't have to be black people with water, right? It really doesn't. It could be Middle Eastern people with guns or war. Something that is essential to life, something that may be necessary, but you don't necessarily agree with it or have the best relationship with it, and neither do your ancestors, okay? Just an example. 5th question. Can you think of the scenario that has brought this fear on? Again, the foundation of it is you actually remembering how it happened, where you were. Not where you were. That's the scenario. The scenario is, can you remember the emotions that has created this fear? The exact moment where this fear had set in and you were like, it's an absolute no. Like, no way. Do you actually understand this fear? And this is a part of the same question. Like, this scenario, do you understand why you even have this fear still today? Like, does it make sense to be holding on to it, is what I'm saying. Is it plausible? And there were a lot of other things that had come to mind, but the creator told me to just focus on these 5 questions and try not to stress people into creating a list that is based off of what they think people want to hear. You have to authentically observe your own emotions and separate that from what you're really afraid of. Because I'll tell you something. Your emotions are connected to the fear. And this is where it gets tricky, because you'll assume that you're afraid of something, not realizing that you actually are just an emotional person. Like, I know someone who has this really crazy fear of rats. And I'm like, I understand this scenario. You told me the story a billion times. I get it. But at this point in your life, what is allowing you to stay connected to that fear? That means whatever happened, and this is if it's not a traumatic situation. That situation was slightly traumatic, but it's connected to an even more traumatic situation, if you get what I mean. A rat ran up her pant leg when she was a child, but this happened as a result of her being home alone. Her parent had left her alone. So that ability to hold on to that fear is connected to the trauma of being left alone without her mother's support to help her fight off the rat or to keep the rat from attack. You get what I'm saying? These fears are connected to other things. All right. But I'm going to end it here. I do love y'all. I hope all is well. I hope y'all enjoyed y'all weekend. I hope y'all are drinking y'all water, eating y'all fruit and vegetables, and sipping on your own tea because it's free. We are going to do another exercise such as this.